Hello and good morning or good afternoon to wherever you are. I hope you can hear me and in the virtual world, and I hope you're all well and safe. I do apologise for the slight delay. There were some technical issues which we just overcome, but hopefully now the session will be able to start. So the session here is the Aztec webinar, and we're looking at motivating your people through the coronavirus lockdown. Ah, yes, good. I can see a few yeses. Thank you very much. So my name is John, and I'm going to be taking you through this session. And as I say, it's from another course that we've used called Leading and Creating Virtual Teams. And I'll explain a little bit about this in a few moments. Okay, so I do apologise for the delay. As I say, some technical problems from my end. Right, so if we're ready to move on, we'll move on. So welcome again. As I say, I'm the lead instructor for one of the Aztec courses called Leading and Creating Virtual Teams. And who would have envisaged the fact that we'll be using this material now and how pertinent it is under the particular circumstances. Now, on this course, we look at remote working, we look at the virtual teams. So I'm going to share with you some of the key points, all right, from this course. Now, I use this quote, any fool can know, the point is to understand, from Albert Einstein. And the key thing here is the fact that we know a lot about leadership, we know a lot about management, we know a lot about motivation. But the key thing is that we need to understand about these topics. And that way, then, we can make some active decisions in our lives. Now, those of you who've met me before, I can see a few welcomes and thank yous. Thank you very much. Those of you who know me, then they know that I can go into academic detail as deep as required. However, I like to keep things simple and to the point. Okay, so some of the things I'll be sharing with you will be things that will be simplified versions of models and theories. Now, again, because of the way the presentation is set up, some of the slides may take a couple of seconds just to transition through, so I do apologise for that. So just moving on. So what we're going to be covering is looking at the topic of motivation. We're going to be looking at things called social triggers. We're going to be looking at how this lockdown affects people in the workplace. And we're going to be looking at strategies to overcome. And I'll also be looking at some guidance. Now, there are also, when you get the slides, you'll get a handout with this, which will go into a little bit more detail about some of the points that I'm going to share with you. So I hope you're okay with that. Right, so let's start our first topic, which is looking at motivation. And there are many, many motivational theories around. And when we look at these, we can see that we've got things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we've got the self-actualization, we've got social, safety, physiological needs. We've got Hertzberg's theory, motivational hygiene factors. We've got Alderfer's erg theory, which is existedness, relatedness, and growth. We've got Vroom's expectancy theory. We've got Adam's equity theory, where it's a case of what you put in is what you put out. And we have Kurt Loon's behavioural theory, which is behaviour and the environment. All of these and many, many more motivational theories all tend to have three key themes within them. So when I go on to my next slide, you'll look at this with the Alderfer and also with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the three key factors, when you get all these theories together, the three key factors that are running through them are these. So the first one is survival. And we look at Maslow, we look at Alderfer and so on. You'll see that there's an element there about survival. And that all humans have a motivation to survive. So if I was to throw you in the sea, you'd fight to stay afloat. If I was to grab you around the throat, then you would try to fight me off. So we have this survival instinct. Now, this survival instinct is transferred into the workplace with things like job, security, money, and able to put food on the table, clothes on your back. So we have this survival need within us. The next need that we all share is this, which is social interaction. So as humans, we need this social contact. We need this human interaction. I'm going to talk about introverts and extroverts later, but even introverts, we need this sense of belonging. Now, transferred into the workplace, we see this as Being belonging to the team, working in the office, the interaction that we have, just speaking, talking, the noise, the hustle, the bustle that goes on. So that's the second one. The third one that we all share is achievement. Okay, so as humans, we all have a desire to succeed. Now that desire is different in us all. So it's a case of, playing on Xbox or a PlayStation, trying to zap all the aliens, trying to, to win the game, all the way through to a little gold star at school, through to a degree, a diploma, business, whatever it is. All right. But we all have this desire to achieve, to win, all right, and to do well. Now, again, just to simplify this, so we're simplifying all the big models into these three components. When we put all these three together and all the models, the main thing that's running through, or the main word that we can use to simplify this, is purpose. So our motivation is driven by a purpose. A purpose to get money, to get food on the table, a purpose to interact with other people, or to achieve a certain goal or a certain aim. So the key word here to simplify this is purpose. So we need a purpose in our lives, and that's why people, if they're unemployed or whatever, after a while they say, I need a purpose. I need a purpose in my life. So the next thing we need to bear in mind is the fact that when I run the course, that Leading and Creating Virtual Teams, on that particular course, we talk about the fact that when it comes down to remote working is normally a choice. And it's a strategic choice, or it's an organizational choice by the business, whether it's short or medium-term strategy, to make people work from home for 2 or 3 days a week. But that, as I say, is a choice. Now, in the case of our lockdown, which is what a lot of us are going through, where we're actually enforced to stay at home, where we're enforced to be in our homes or our houses, this now disrupts this choice. And in that case, as you can see here, all these things now are distorted or removed. So we don't have the choice of our social interaction. We may not have a choice about our jobs. We may not have a choice about our achievements. So because these are now distorted, that is going to affect our motivation. Not just you, but also the team and the people that you work with. So that's point number one. So just bear that in mind. Now, moving on from this, we're now going to look at another aspect of motivation. Some of you may not have covered this before, but it's highly pertinent in this particular scenario that we're in at the moment. And these are social and behavioural triggers. So you are conditioned by social and behavioural triggers, and you've been conditioned like this for many years. So we call what your going to school years. You wake up at a set time, you get dressed, you have breakfast, you travel to school, you start lesson at a set time, you break at a set time, your next lesson is at a set time, lunch at a set time, and so on. And this will go on for probably, most of us, for 12 years of our life, from the age of 4 to 16 or whatever, when we leave our secondary school. Now, also, you're going to work years. So you wake up at a set time, you get dressed, you have breakfast, you travel to work. You generally will start work at a set time, and you'll break. In the work case, you do have a bit of a choice, so maybe 20% variation of time. You'll then continue your work, you'll then go on to lunch, and so on. So looking at these two together, do these look familiar? At the end of the day, we are socially conditioned to go through these. Now, again, I like to simplify things. I like to put things in simple context. And the word that we use for this is a routine. So all of this is just a routine that we use. And we are, we use this, throughout our lives. We have a routine for, going to the gym or keeping fit or for food or whatever it is. So we have these social triggers which we are conditioned in our lives, believe it or not. So again, this is going to be a little bit more come through as my talk goes on. So just looking at these, again, if, and because of the lockdown, this routine now for ourselves and for the people that we work with is now distorted or removed. Because again, we don't have a choice in some of these things. We're now told to have done this. Now, again, when I run my normal leading and creating virtual teams, as I said, remote working is generally a choice. People decide, or the organisation decides. They still have that freedom to go to the shops, walk around, to do things. But obviously, in the current situation, some of us have had that taken away. So again, we need to be aware of the fact that this routine now is distorted. But it doesn't mean to say that it stops. So I'm going to talk about that when I look at strategies and things later. So just moving on. So summary so far, what we can see is the fact that motivation has three key main areas. Survival, which is our pay and our job. Our social, which is our sense of belonging, the team and the office and things like this. We then have the achievement, which is the targets, the goals and the standard. The basis of nearly all motivation relies on a purpose, a reason, a sense of doing something of value. And as I said, if this purpose is removed or disrupted, then problems can occur. So in that case, as I said before, if you feel you have no purpose, then your motivation diminishes quite quickly. We're also socially conditioned to a routine. And again, if this routine is disrupted or removed, then problems can occur. And at the bottom there, I'm going to talk about developing emotional resilience. So you may not have come across this term before, but I'll be looking at that further on in this talk. So just moving on. Now, when it comes down to people, again, because of the bills, there's a question there, but I'll answer that in a few seconds. We have different types of people, but the two main types that we have are people who are extrovert and people who are introvert. And either side of the coin may be you. Now, when it comes down to these situations, again, on my course, we talk about or discuss who is better suited for remote working. So extroverts are quite open, quite sociable, quite easy to get on with. Introverts are more relaxed, more shy, and a little bit more not forthcoming. So in the case of remote working, it's a question of who is the best person or the best type of person suited for this. Now, unfortunately, things like remote working has not been around for too long, probably 10, 15 years. There's not a lot of research in this particular area, although I'm sure after this lockdown there certainly will be. There are a few academics writing some papers on this. And a lot of the work that is done is contradictory in some cases. So there's not a lot of research, and what is can be quite contradictory. But looking at it, what we can see is the fact that what they say is that people who are in the middle sector, when we look at that little graph underneath, the distribution curve, we have extremes on one end or the other end, and in the middle we have the bulk of the people in the middle. And studies show that remote working tends to favour people who are in the middle sector. So what it's saying is the fact that generally a lot of us can cope with remote working. Now, as I said, we also get we are going to have the extremes, whether it's the extreme introverts or the extreme extroverts. This may be you, or people within your team or the people that you're managing. Now, in the case of in the case of people who are more introverts, so that's looking at people who are quite into the introvert, very, very shy, very, very retiring and so on, then what you need to be aware of is the fact that while they're working away remotely, they may be in their apartment on their own, they may not have any very social friends, they may be expats who are away from the country. So these people tend to lock down, and they will shy away from social media, teams and groups. They can become very isolated. So you will have to make the efforts to contact them. Now, if you are very introvert, you're going to have to self-discipline yourself to make that effort yourself as well. Now, looking at the other side, we have people who are more extrovert. So here, These kind of people who are quite extrovert, they will be contacting you. They will be on the phone, they'll be on emails, they'll be constantly, because they need that interaction. They want the achievement for them, the social interaction for them is quite high. Now, in some cases, you need to be aware of this. They may form some social groups. So the opposite, the introverts, they shy away from them. Extroverts will create, Instagram, Facebook pages and things like this. And they may start to take things offline. So they may start to come out of the communication chain and bubble that you create. So just moving on and looking at this. Now, talking about emotional resilience. Emotional resilience refers to one's ability to stressful situations or crisis. Now, we talk about emotional intelligence, so some of you may have come across this before. And in the case of emotional intelligence, should I say, and emotional resilience, these two things are intertwined to some degree. They are separate, but they are also joined, if you understand that. So your emotional resilience is your ability to adapt to stressful situations, the ability to roll with the punches, adapt to adversity. Now, some people are better at this than others, and this is something that people need to learn and develop, and people who are less resilient have a harder time with stress. So this is just something you need to be aware of, because it's something that it needs a further investigation from yourselves, but it's something you need to be understand. So just moving on from this, communication. So when we look at these, the introverts, the extroverts, we look at the different people within your team, the people who are working from home remotely, then your communication with these people and to yourselves and to other people around is that you need to strike a balance with them. So your engagement and communication. So not too much and not too little, because if you start to hassle people, you're checking up on them, they start to then back away. If you move away and don't contact people and leave it for a little while, then again, these people will tend to shut down, especially those people who are more introverted in that sense. Now, we are in, as I say, they use the word, unprecedented times. This is a completely new situation for most of us. So the key thing to remember here is we're all on a very steep learning curve. And that steep learning curve is something that we need to be aware of. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to, make errors. But the key thing here is to learn from those errors and as we move forward. Okay, so this is completely new to, well, not most of us, but to all of us. This is an unprecedented situation, global situation that is affecting many of us. So just moving on. Now, this is probably one of the biggest killers of motivation. In this situation, there is so much fake news around and so many rumors, and obviously the media channels are great. However, they're also very disruptive and can kill motivation. Fake news and rumors, they feed on people's insecurities, and they just create, just kill the motivation. Now, in these situations, when people, hear news or rumors, they normally will adopt one of the 3 Fs, or even 1 or 2, or even 3 of them. And this is fight, flight, or freeze. So the fight, so they'll either be argumentative to stress their point, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend told them that. So they will be trying to fight their corner. The flight will be, they'll just ignore you, they'll walk away, they'll say you don't want to listen. So again, the communication channels may start to shut down in that sense. The freeze is people who will not do anything. They will not move because they're scared because of certain situations. So in the case of fake news and rumors, this can become very, very demotivated for people. So you as a leader or a manager or a supervisor in charge of your team, you need to stop or quell these kind of situations. So here, always check clarify, and confirm. So using the 3 C's of communication. So check the sources, clarify it, and confirm it where you possibly can. Now, there are a few websites out there. One of the websites I use is one called fullfact.org, which is this will be on the handout as well. And this is an organisation. It's a UK government organisation. And these people are a group of academics and people in the general population. They go around, they look at fake news, they look at rumours, and they will then investigate and research them and hopefully give you an honest opinion. So if you hear these kind of rumours, you need to sort of quell them or try to, check, clarify, and confirm. So that's a big key when it comes down to the communication. So, right, I want to spend a little bit of time on this because with your people, overcoming negativity is going to be a key factor when people are demotivated. Now, as a professionally qualified leadership mentor and executive coach, I often come across this problem of people who are being negative. Because when I'm sent a delegate or a person to be coached, one of the things is on one side of the spectrum, they may have the perception that they've been told to see me or to be coached because there's a performance issue. So automatically they are putting up barriers and I've got to break down this negativity. Or on the other side of the spectrum, I may have people who are very willing to be coached. But when I get into the conversations with them, they then start to put up blockers, mental blockers. I can't do this, I can't do that, we can't do this. So all these kind of things. So that is some of the negative issues. So I have a number of strategies that I use. So I'm going to share with you 2 of these today, which these things are not just to be used in the workplace. They can be used on your family, your friends, basically in your life. So these are life skills. So I'm going to share with you 2 that I use. So in this situation, you're always going to get, when things change and things change rapidly or bad things are happening, people will sit there and their mindset is this: why me? Why me? Why now? Why is it happening? What's going on? And what happens is they then start to think negatively. And negative breeds negative. So that's the key. So the idea is the fact that we need to get them out of this negative mindset. Because all they'll do is they'll start to spiral further and further down into depression and so on. And they can't see a way out. So you need to get them out. Now, the other thing is you need to do this to yourself. Okay, so this is a life skill for you as well as for other people. So when you're in this situation and something bad happens to you, don't sit there and say, why me? Okay, so use this little tip or this little strategy that I'm going to share with you now. So the main thing is here is you ask the question, okay, so what can I do about this situation? Or if I'm speaking to somebody else, okay, what can you do about this situation? What do you have? What options do you have? What can what can you see? And it comes from the old tale about the fact that if you're given a bag of lemons, then positive people will turn that into lemonade. So they will not see the lemons as being a bad thing to get. So the idea is that when you start to think this way and get yourself into, well, what can I do? What opportunities do I have? Even if you just get one tiny little seed, it gives your mind that purpose, that reason to do something. And then a bit like climbing out of a hole, you take one step and one step and one step, and you start to move forward and hopefully up, out. So that's one little tip. So say that to yourself. So if you're in those situations, don't say, why me? Just say, okay, I'm in the situation. What can I do about it? What can I do to change in that situation? Or if it's one of your guys and you get this kind of feeling, just sit them down and say, okay, well, what can you do? What options do you have? So that's my first strategy. I do have more, but as I say, that's one. Now, my next one is using 2 basically very powerful words, but on their own they seem very simple. But when combined, they become very, very powerful. So, moving on here. These two words, yet and but. Okay, so when they're used in combination, they become very, very powerful. So, for example, a child may come to you and say, I can't do maths. Your answer may be, okay, so how do you approach this? Or you can do maths, and say, no, I can't. And you start getting into this argument or this discussion. However, in this situation, you sort of, it's a bit contradictory, but you sort of agree slightly with what they've said and then move them on. So in this case, you may turn around and say, okay, you can't do maths yet, but you will do when I show you how. Again, I can't ride a bike. Okay, you can't ride a bike yet, but you will do when I show you how. So this moves the mind away from this negative thing into a purpose, an opportunity, and so on. So there are many other strategies that are used, but these are two key things about overcoming these negative phrases. So to yourself, start to change your mindset by asking yourself positive questions, moving yourself forward, or by using these two powerful terms of yet and but. So I can't do maths yet, but, sorry, you can't do maths yet, but you will be able to. And again, in the workplace, somebody comes to you and says, no, we can't do this. You say, okay, we can't do this yet, but we will be able to when the lockdown is released. So in that case, let's move on. Let's get this thing done. Let's get this, this project on the way. But at least we can start doing some groundwork. And that then gives them a purpose to move on with their lives. Okay, so I hope you find those two little strategies of use. As I say, and like I said, if you use them, then that should hopefully help you in your management. Okay, so just summing up here, we need to understand that basically we have a purpose and a routine. So as people, as human beings, the key thing is here, we need to have a purpose, and as part of this, we need to have a routine to keep going. So if you are managing people in a virtual office or people are working from home, then in this case, try to think about setting office hours. So people are into a routine, because remember, as a child and coming to work, you were used to getting up, you were used to traveling to work, you used to starting work at certain hours. So try to set office hours virtually. Set aside times for group team contact. So that's video conference, click meeting, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, whatever it is you're going to use. There are no excuses for no communication, because with the amount of technology that's out there, let's say, people will be able to use these. Check in regular on individuals, but again, not too much and not too little, because, as I say, if it may be seen as though you're overcompensating, but make it clear to people that you're doing this not to check up on their work as trust, but for their welfare. So you're doing the communication check as a welfare check as well. If you are working before, if you yourself or the people around you are working before or after normal office hours, don't involve other people. Because remember, working remotely, you now don't have that 2-hour travel time, that commute time. So you may decide to start work a little bit early, or you may decide you sat around, it's 7, 8 o'clock at night, a little bit bored, you still got a little bit more energy, and you think, okay, I'll go and do some work. Try not to involve other people by emailing them or texting them to look at a document or check things that you're doing, because they may be using that time as their rest time, and they don't want to be disturbed in those times. As I said, use technology, team organization tools. You've got Microsoft 365, you've got Microsoft Teams, you can even use Outlook. There are many, many things out there. Whatever your organization uses, just try to use these productively. So those are looking at some of the things. And as you can see there with the handout, there are other things that I talk about and discuss, and things for you to lay out. Those are the key main points that I just want you to be aware of. So again, well-being, all work and no play. The idea is the fact that you don't want to overload people just because you may be thinking, well, they've got more time, they've got more things, so you don't want to overwork them. You yourselves, all right, when you're working remotely, you do need to take time out. It is very, very tempting to sit there because, again, you don't have those those social triggers about break time, lunch time, and things like this. So in that situation, you may, in some cases, you'll find people actually overwork. So take time out, do exercises. Again, there's lots and lots of things on the internet about online exercise classes and things like this. So, exercise or exercise yourself. Relax, take time out to relax, just chill out. If you want to play your PlayStations or whatever kind of things, then just relax. Be creative, okay? So there may be things that you want to learn, there may be things that you want to do, you never had the time, but now you may have a little bit more time. And also think about meditation, reflection on the day, things like this. Another thing as well is to also consider getting out of this negativity, this lockdown, this cabin fever, as they sometimes call it. Try to be positive in your outlook. And in some cases, think about blocking accounts, because there may be people out there who are spreading rumors, false information, and these people are just after attention. But all it does, it just drives this fear. It feeds on your insecurities. So in some cases, just block those people. So don't have negative people in your lives. You want positive people to move yourself forward. So again, that's just consideration on those areas. But again, that's more in the handout as well. So don't forget also this term, praise pays. So the fact that a thank you, a well done, really, really does pay dividends. So when you're trying to motivate people, that does help. And also this other thing, this other saying is gratitude changes attitude. So again, a thank you, a well done will change people's attitudes. Now, you may just be able to see in the corner there, there's a clip. Here in the UK, the NHS, our National Health Service, every week around 8 o'clock on a Thursday, everybody in the UK who's able gets out into the street, into the back gardens and claps, honks the horns, bangs pots and pans, all these kind of things, just to say thank you to the NHS. Now, for the nurses and staff, that is a huge morale booster. That really, the feedback that they get from these claps is tremendous. But just you as an individual, going out into the street and praising and thanking people, all just from a simple clap. So this thing is a proven motivational thing. So in the workplace, I'm not asking you to go out into the streets and clap yourselves, but in the workplace, don't forget to give everybody a virtual high five. So the fact that they're not in the office, because remember, part of your motivation is about achievement. It's about that feeling of, have I done well? Have I reached my target? Have I reached, the project that I need to do? Now, we get that feedback in the office from body language, smiles, and the way that people react to you. But in the case of a remote working, they're not going to get this feedback. So you need to make a little bit of an extra effort to give somebody that thank you, that praise. So it may be a case of, thank you to the person, or a high five to you all, or whatever. Now, those of you who are more senior or with the organizations, CEO board, again, communication, as I said before, is key. So here, think about a virtual town hall. So organize a webinar or a video just to give the troops, morale. Okay, so it's that morale boosting thing of the fact that, thank you, very much for your efforts and your time. So those, as I say, are very simple things, but they actually are very powerful. So that top little phrase there, praise pays, it does. It has been shown, and gratitude changes attitude. Again, that is something that is definitely positive. Okay, so I'm just moving on. So before we go, can anything positive come from this? So again, we're in this situation, there's lots of doom and gloom, but from an organisation point of view, organisations now hopefully will start to rethink their strategies about becoming agile. So there's going to be fast redeployment, new strategies, global connectivity. That's going to create opportunities for people. It's going to create, opportunities for the organisation to grow and develop if they seize this opportunity. Again, cost saving. Now, again, when I run my course, remote working, as I said before, it's a choice. The company itself has decided through short or long-term or medium-term strategy to put people on two days working from home, things like this. That reduces daily commutes. It helps with the carbon footprints because there's less CO2 emissions and transport and things like this, and there's less assets for the company, office space and things like this. For the individual, again, there's less commuting, so they save money. Again, they're helping the environment, and again, less assets there. Productivity, again, hopefully there's going to be fewer, quicker meetings, a bit like Agile. The actual agile project management and scrum meetings and things. So the meetings, may be quicker. So it's not a case of coming into a meeting room, sitting down, having a cup of coffee, having a biscuit before you get into the focus. So here you're able to focus on what matters. So they'll be sharper, quicker as people use the technology. Self-leadership. We're going to find that a lot of people are going to become more self-managed, self-leaders, and they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to learn how to do this. So that's all about empowerment and things like this. And this we cover all this on many of our leadership and management courses. I cover it myself with this. And so some people you'll find, as we start to come out of this, that some of the leaders will start to emerge as some people step up to the plate, as it were. So that emotional resilience as well comes in. More time, as I say, people who work, from home, technically, as I say, they may get more time to use. So instead of spending an hour commuting, they can go and pick the children up, go and play with the kids or whatever kind of thing. So they'll have that little bit more time, so long as they don't get into this mindset of putting in that extra work when they shouldn't do. And hopefully that should reduce less stress, and they should be more productive and quality. And technology. So for all those technophobes who are out there who can't see the purpose of video meetings and all that kind of stuff, they'll have no excuse, because this is going to be the new norm. So even when we come out of this, companies will realise, well, we did this, it worked, a bit of cost savings and so on. So we're going to find that this is going to set the precedents for the future on work and society. So before, when I talked about it on my other courses, as I said, it was a choice, we'd move in. It is now going to become a norm. So a lot of organisations will, when the barriers are lifted, will say, actually, this is working, so we'll leave some of this where it is. We don't need to change it, and it's working. So just be aware of that. Now, just summary and recap. So motivation has three main components. As you can see, survival, so that status of money, job, putting food on the table, clothing. Social, that's social interaction. So in the workplace, we need that feeling of belonging. We get that from being in the office, seeing people moving around, walking. So we now have to change our view on this and use other means like the high five and so on. Achievement, again, that comes from people recognizing that they've done well. So we need to make sure that we still satisfy that achievement need within all of us. Our motivation relies on a purpose, a reason. So people need to have that job. They need that focus. So again, overcoming that negativity when you question somebody and says, well, okay, you're in the situation, but what can you do? What options do you have? You then start to move that mindset slowly into, okay, I've got some lemons. What can I do about them? I'm moving on. So there then becomes a purpose for and the reason. And remember also that we're socially conditioned to these triggers, which is our routine. So because we are in this routine, we've had this for, certainly through our school years and in our work life. Again, we've been conditioned through this thing. We live our lives to a routine, a timetable or whatever. It may be very loose in some cases. Some people may be very strict. But again, it's a bit like introverts. There's the balance in between, extreme on one, extreme on the other. But our routine. So we need to create and set an office routine, whether it's that remote or virtually, so that people know, when to use the word clock in or log in, and when they can log out or clock out. So that routine and the things in between. Again, we need to set and define that purpose and routine. So that's your job as leaders or managers or looking after your people. Again, communication is vital. So again, this is more, as I say, looking to the people who may be more introverted, who've got no friends, and they're in the apartment on their own, and they have no communication. But it has to be balanced. Okay, so the communication is vital, but it has to be balanced. And it's also, you're not just checking up on these people on the work and their production, you're looking at the welfare as well, making sure that they're okay, because in some cases, some people will go into mental lockdown, let alone physical lockdown. Stop fake news and rumours. So check, clarify and confirm. So when you hear rumours coming through, when you hear things coming through, stop, ask yourself the question, is this true? Try to source it, try to understand and try to quell it where you can. Because as I said, people will go into the 3 Fs, 1, 2 or even all 3 of them. So they'll either fight and become argumentative, they'll either flight, they'll just walk away from you, or they'll freeze. They will just not do anything because they're too scared. So we need to overcome this, because that is a very, very big killer on motivation. Overcome negativity, as I say, with the strategies. So what can you do? So that gives people a purpose. And also use those 2 powerful words. So individually, not very strong, but combined, the sum is greater than the individual parts. So child, as say the example, I can't do maths. Okay, you can't do maths yet, but you will be able to do when I show you how. Okay, so we can't do this. So you say, okay, well, we can't do this yet, but we will be able to do this when the lockdown lifts or we come out of this. Praise pays. So just looking at that. So again, lots and lots of examples on motivation there. So thank you does go a long way. So just be aware of that. And here, one thing that I'm just going to show you a little comment here is the fact that somebody said to me the other day, when you look at all these leadership motivational theories and we're in this situation, all of it is just the same. There is nothing new that I'm showing you here or explaining to you here. It's just different. It's just a different mindset. It's taking it and looking at it from a different point of view. So again, it's not dwelling in the negative, but looking at the positive. So a lot of organizations, when they suddenly got told, that's it, cease work, or you people are going to work from home, they didn't just turn around and go, ooh, that's it. They suddenly realized that they had to change. They had to do something different. So it's the same principles, the same models and theories, but we just have to adapt them in a different way. Another thing I just want to talk about here is the fact that please help and support each other. So build up your networks, build up your things. Also remember to get rid of the negative ones if people are things, but try to help and support each other. Knock on your neighbours' doors and things like this, and people in the street, or when you go out, please try to help each other in these times. And just moving on from here. So again, on that point, here at Aztec, we're here to help. We're putting on these webinars. We're trying to help you, continue your learning and development through these unprecedented times. Other companies doing some online learning, some more webinars in the future. So, without further ado, I'd like to thank you and offer you a virtual high five to you all, and thank you for staying with me for this time. It's been great speaking to you.